And we're back, episode 7 of the Game Time Show for Coaches. I'm here with Brian and Brady. What's up, brothers?
What's up, brothers?
Did I do that right, Brady?
Yeah.
We're going to jump straight into the first quarter. We got an audience question from one of our Huddle members. That's our exclusive coaching program, membership program. What awards do you like to give out for your year-end banquet or dinner? Brian, what do you do for your college team?
Well, we've had the traditional MVP, and then it depends. It varies. We have discussions amongst our coaching staff and trying to find creative ways to give people who we think deserve something. Make sure that there's something that fits a category that they would qualify for. And all catch-all coaches award might be something, but we like to recognize people who maybe go above and beyond a score sheet contribution, whether it's hard work and practice, whether it's contribution to the team being, supporting them, whether it's in a bench role or on the floor. We try to find creative ways. So it's usually an MVP and then something else. It could be a coach's award. Maybe it's a defensive award one year because that person happens to also be a quality defender, but we try to do it that way.
Because the NBA is so prevalent, I like MVP, most improved. You can also do kind of if someone shows up and works their butt off, comes to every practice, you can give them the most dedicated, something like that. And then maybe if you have like a team motto or mantra that you want to follow, whoever embodies that the most. So if you're the Spartans, you can give the Spartan Award.
A sneaky NBA award that not many people know about that's been around for a few years now is a Hustle Award. And it's actually awarded based off of hustle statistics. I know Marcus Smart won it a couple years in a row. I can't remember if it was last year he won it, but rewarding players that hustle and work hard is always a good one.
Okay, let's get into the second quarter. Brian, you had the privilege of driving. How long was it?
I drove 5.5 hours.
5.5 hours one way to go see Caitlin Clark in the Elite Eight against LSU in Albany. You wanted to talk about it. What did you see there that maybe we wouldn't have seen on the screen?
First of all, driving 5.5 hours is nothing to have your back padded for, but I did turn around right after the game and drive 5.5 hours home again. So I drove 11 hours in the same day to watch that game.
Start padding.
Now we can do that. And it was worth the drive. It was fantastic. The atmosphere, the environment, all of it. It lived up to everything. I've been, in full disclosure, I've been an Iowa Hawkeyes fan, yes, from up here in Canada since 1986 with Jerry Wright and B.J. Armstrong and Roy Marble and those guys. So to see Iowa succeed and to have the best player in the country and one of the best female players ever at Iowa was great. Getting to the game specifically, though, it was fantastic. But what I wanted to point out from a coaching standpoint, and I don't want to come on here and look to disparage anybody coaching-wise, but I'm a big believer in trying to put people in positions to succeed and most importantly, try and build people's confidence up so they don't feel that they're going to be punished for any small failure during a game. And my heart broke for Haley Van Lith because I've followed her all through Louisville. I enjoyed the way she played. She played free, loose at Louisville, and she was very successful. She goes to LSU. She's put more of in a point guard role versus a shooting guard role. That's a whole other discussion, but that's probably what was best for their team. And I have no qualms about that. I'm not inside of it, so can't say. But I do know that from watching from the position I was in across from the bench, every mistake she made, there was kicking and screaming, and she's looking over. Someone's getting subbed in. And she was asked to guard Caitlin Clark, which is extremely difficult to begin with. And she's small to do it in the first place. And then every time Caitlin's scoring or doing something, which she does to everybody, again, it's kicking, screaming, huffing, and like, okay, some of this you got to look in the mirror and say, hey, what can we do differently to A, change things up and try and stop their best player? And but more importantly, B, what can I do to get someone who's traditionally been very successful at a high level at a very good school to be the same way for me? And she just played with no confidence. And it's not surprising to me that she's going somewhere else next year. And I just really, really, really felt for her. It's funny, I had LSU fans sitting behind me and I listened to them talking behind me, and it was the first thing they were noticing as well. So it's not something just a coach noticed another coach. It was people were noticing, and she played with no confidence, and so it didn't help, and then when you play with no confidence, you start making mistakes, and then your teammates start looking at you a little bit funny too, and it just snowballs. So it was a tough situation from there, but overall, the game itself, fantastic experience.
Okay, we're already at halftime. We're getting into our locker room type conversations, although we're adults now. So here's mine. We're back to showering again. When you shower, do you soap your legs or do you just let the water do the work?
Oh, that's a great question. The answer is I don't soap my legs. It's a lot of work, man. I mean, maybe like twice a year. I don't know.
This will not be edited out. Twice a year.
I'm laughing because he said twice a year, but I can't say that I do it very often myself. If I've maybe been heavily sweating or working outside or something, or it requires it, I'll do it. But no, I rarely soap my whole legs.
I'm the same as well. Soap's coming down from your hair, it's gonna get there, right? I mean,
that's right.
Like you said, Brad, if you're out doing yard work and your knees get dirty and you're in the mud, dirt, whatever, sure, soap them up. But I definitely do it more than twice a year. But it's far less than 10%.
Brady doesn't do any work. That's why it's twice a year.
Wow. I guess in fact, it's wintertime. So, my knees haven't got dirty in a while. So I suppose I forgot about gardening and yard work, but, still, it's low.
Okay, let's get into the third quarter. We're into coaching do's and don'ts. I got 3 for you today. First one, we'll assume this is high school. Do or don't. Providing a scouting report on strength and weaknesses of your opponents.
I mean, if you have time, it's a do. And there's no harm in scouting and giving your players an advantage or letting your players know the best way to defend another team or who to look out for on the defensive end yourselves. If you have the resources and the time to put that together as a high school basketball coach, then go for it.
I wouldn't spend an inordinate amount of time on it, but I agree with Brady. If you have the resources and can do it, you do it. I also think as a coach, especially at the high school level, you have a feel for your opponent, and depending on the strength of your team. I know I had very good teams for a while in high school where more than half the schedule you knew you're probably going to win by 15 to 40 points. I probably wouldn't have spent a whole lot of time on that stuff. I'd more worry about what we want to do to execute and run the things that we want to run. But certainly the further the season went on and the tougher the games got, we certainly would talk about what other teams did, and we'd prepare to beat them, knowing what their tendencies were or what they like to do. If you've got a particularly weaker team, I would spend little to no time on that sort of thing. I'd worry about what we need to do to get better, versus how we're going to stop opponent A, B, and C so we lose by 17 instead of 38.
Okay, so the second coaching do or don't. Writing up a contract for your players' parents in terms of like expected behavior, that kind of thing.
So this for me goes back to, I think, a topic we talked about before, and that's about rules and stuff. And one of my big things is the more rules you have, the more you have to enforce. And I'd like some wiggle room to be able to discuss things with people. So I don't have a lot of rules, and that would also fall into this category. I'm not making a contract to my parents because then you're becoming a policeman and you got to stick to it. I would rather have a conversation with my parents, say, hey, this is what, what the behavior should be or shouldn't be, or what we want to support, or how we believe we should act as a group. And then as soon as somebody kind of noticeably steps out of line, I would have a conversation with them privately and say, hey, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the year. This is kind of important. It's getting in the way of, the team, the whatever. It's a distraction. We need you to toe the line, so to speak. I believe more in the conversational thing than the writing thing.
Yeah, I think if you've been kind of burned in the past by and had it seasons or experiences ruined by parents, maybe I could see why leaning towards wanting to make something, get something down in writing, you would want that. But I'm with you. I mean, you got to suck it up and have those tough conversations. And even if it means having a conversation at the beginning of the year with every single parent so they can know what's expected. It's all about building trust, and I don't think a contract builds trust.
And I think if you're having those conversations on a regular basis anyways, like we talk about on almost every episode, you'll find you have less of these things to talk about.
Okay, the next coaching do or don't. Setting consistent substitution patterns. Let's say Jennifer plays the first 7 minutes of the quarter, sits the next 5 minutes of the game, goes back in. Consistent every single game.
I'm for but against it in the terms of, I think your top players, they're going to play their set minutes, but as a coach, you also need to be adaptable and adjust. And I think just setting, say, your sixth or seventh man to playing 3 or 4 minutes, because that's what you do every game. Well, what if they're playing good? Or what if one of your better players is having a bit of an off night? You need to be able to adjust, regardless of your typical schedule that you play the players, to give them a bit of, just change it up a bit if players are hot or cold.
I agree for the most part. I mean, I've always had an initial substitution pattern. You know who you're going to start. You probably know who you're bringing into the game, roughly when to start. But you have to, as Brady said, be able to adjust and take advantage of somebody's good play, or conversely, somebody's having an off night and maybe they don't, they normally would play 28 minutes and tonight they're going to end up playing 22 because they're just not playing as well or giving you what you need. Somebody else steps up. But so I say you go into the game with some sort of plan, but you've got to be able to adjust.
Yeah, I like having a plan. And maybe when you sub someone out, you can say, check with me in 3 or 4 minutes. We'll get you back in so that you don't forget. And they stay engaged in the game. They know they're getting back in. But yeah, you need to be adaptable. Otherwise, foul trouble, poor play, great play, that kind of stuff. You need to be adaptable and ride the wave.
There's been times too, and again, it's the old communication discussion, but there's been times where, you got a guy who starts and plays 28 minutes, 30 minutes, and he ends up playing 22 minutes, and he really didn't play poorly. But somebody else stepped up and played well that night. I also would go to that guy who used to play more and didn't that particular night, and I'd say, hey, hey, Kelly, Sarah was going today pretty good, so we gave her a bit more run today. Keep your head up. Doesn't change anything. Those types of conversations. So she doesn't go home thinking she did something wrong. And meanwhile, all it was that, hey, somebody else played well and we're giving them an opportunity.
Okay, let's get into the fourth quarter. Play of the week. We got a zone offense play here that's super simple, gets you lots of space down low for your post player to operate. Let's go. We're starting with a 4-out overload. This play will be most successful by running it on the side your post player is most comfortable. A cutter starts the offense going down the lane and to the ball side corner to occupy the bottom defender. That gives us tons of space in the post, and our post player works early to get good position. As the ball enters into the post, the top player drops to the foul line for a high-low option. If the weak side bottom defender comes over to help, we have multiple kick-out options and hopefully shooters ready to go. Our post player goes quickly and dominates down low. Here's another look using my custom Coach Calls Timeout Playmaker. To get hundreds of more plays like this for your team and many other coaching resources, go to coachcallstimeout.com. Okay, we're done the fourth quarter. Now we're into Brady's crazy stat. Brady, what do you have for us?
It's playoff season in the NBA, and we're already getting into some uncharted territory. Yesterday we had one of the 13th 20, 20, and 10 game in NBA history in the playoffs. 2 players ever have had more than one, and Jokic just had his 4th, tying Wilt Chamberlain for the most of all time. And I truly believe watching Jokic is just an absolute treat. He's just a special player, and he does things that are so underrated. And I think that when we look back, 20 years from now, we're gonna remember how good he is. He's unstoppable. He's one of the most unstoppable basketball players I've seen ever. What do? He's so smart.
And there we have it. There's episode number 7 with Brian, Brady, myself. We'll be back for one more to end season 1. We'll talk to you later.